Hi guys, it's Sue. Welcome to today's live. We are talking about employees as leaders today. I'm not in sunny Arizona anymore. I'm back here in the home office in Michigan. I should point the camera out the window so you can see that we still have about 4 or 5, maybe 6 feet of snow outside the window. Hello there. Andrea's here. Hi there. I bet you might still have a little snow where you're at too in Minnesota. So yeah, today's topic, let me know if you're here so I can kind of see who's with us live. And of course, some of you I know join us quite regularly by watching the recorded video. So glad you take the time to do that. So today's topic really came up for me. I've been doing a lot of calls recently with nursing leaders in particular related to this idea of overwhelm and burnout and busyness. And some of these conversations are really just mentoring and coaching them to kind of, we call it pulling them off the ledge, where they're just so stressed and overwhelmed with the role and getting everything done that's really expected of us as leaders and that we want to do as leaders. So as a leader of leaders for a lot of years, and I served in that role for more than 20 years where I was, leading leaders, so promoting them, mentoring, coaching them, and there is this common, theme or presence of this feeling of responsibility and accountability. And then there's this quantity of workload that goes along with these feelings, and it can be kind of overwhelming. And so we do a lot of work around that, really the leadership bundle, and really making some powerful tactics and habits in leadership that lead to more proactive work that's more positive and less stressful. But today's topic really is around kind of that sense or that feeling that's out there of busyness and overwhelm in leadership, but also want to kind of go at it with our framework. This is the Fans of the Framework. And so in our framework, there's 3 major components: creating strategies, and then creating ownership and alignment to those strategies. And we're doing our C-suite focus this year, and we just did our first one out in sunny Arizona just last week, and it was on the topic of ownership and how to elevate ownership in our culture, and what are the wins and the big positives for doing that. And so really that focus is not just really promoting just in leadership that we feel more like owners of the organization and accountable, and that we perform in alignment with those feelings of ownership, but really how can we create this sense of ownership in the entire organization, where at all levels, all jobs, that there's this sense of ownership. So I was kind of going at this topic in light of both of those things. This sense of overwhelm in leadership, but also this real, ideal that we have, that we can create ownership, and that's one of the solutions to this. So one of the topics that we teach a lot related to the stress and burnout and overwhelm is we always have leaders say, can we have more training on time, priority, and energy management? And that is one way to go at it. And there is a video that we like to use when we teach that, and it is the work of Rory Vaden, V-A-D-E-N, Rory Vaden. He wrote some books out there, one of which is Procrastinate on Purpose, but a video that he has out there, and maybe there's a book about it too, related to eliminate, automate, and delegate. And, really how we can take the old ways of time and priority management and add this new dimension, and then really think about it in the solutions of eliminate, automate, and delegate. And a lot of people, when we teach, kind of some ideas around that, is that they say, well, I'm a leader and I don't have anyone to delegate to, right? I don't have anyone to delegate to. Or the types of things that I'm struggling with aren't things that can be automated. And I think we think about the term of automation to be, how can we use a spreadsheet? How can we use software? How can we use some sort of equipment or computer or technology to automate, to make it faster or less time consuming? So sometimes leaders, just don't see that that's really relevant to them, that advice that comes out of time priority and energy management really applies to them, so they can't see how to use it. So one of the things that I like to do around that is, kind of take the thinking around the automate and the delegate piece and say, how can we turn that into empowerment, engagement, and ownership? See where I'm going here. So it's not just that if you have an assistant manager or director, or if you have a secretary, you have someone to delegate to, or if the thing that's time consuming for you is something, that can't be put onto a spreadsheet or a computer can't help you with, I have no way to automate it. So if we take this idea of automation and delegation and put them together and think about how can we engage everyone in our workforce to be part of not really necessarily the automation piece, but the streamlining piece maybe, and then also the getting involved and taking ownership for it. So I'm going to go at it from that angle too, but I do recommend Rory Vaden's work, and there's a TED Talk out there that he has. It might be called Multiply Your Time or something like that, or the Time Multipliers. So the other thing is that if you've heard us speak a lot, we talk a lot about in organizations, to be a great organization, we want to elevate how people behave, perform, and contribute. So really we're trying to elevate, set really high standards for those things, and then really lead the efforts to raise, across the organization, the level of how people behave, perform, and contribute. So really today's topic fits in that realm too, of really thinking about how do we elevate contributions in the organization. So automate and delegate, this idea of ownership, and then again, this idea of elevating contributions by everyone in the organization, that everyone can contribute to its greatness or its strategies, etc. So with those kind of thoughts in mind, some of the pushback we get from leaders when we talk about, creating your employees as owners, empowering them to really take on this idea of leadership and ownership and engagement and being involved beyond their day-to-day job description, beyond their shift. If leaders, if they want to take on this pursuit of how do we elevate our employees as owners or as leaders in our organization, what kind of mindsets or traps do we fall in that hold us back from actually going down that path? Because what we do know is that on that path and going down that path, the employees benefit greatly, the leaders benefit greatly, their department and their customers or patients benefit greatly, their organization overall benefits greatly. But going down that path or even starting that path is the hardest part. And oftentimes it's this mindset of, I don't even want to go there, right? I don't even want to go there as a leader. I don't see how this can work. I don't want to go there. And so there's some common things or themes that we hear in trying to encourage and inspire leaders. Certainly we know how to help them down that path, but first they have to wrap their mind around that idea that this actually can work. And it's usually a mindset trap. And there's several of them of why leaders might not want to engage their employees in new ways to contribute to maybe improvements, to contribute to goals being accomplished, to do things of that nature. And those traps are, I got a list here, I'm going to read them off, is one of the traps we hear is a leader say, well, it's my job, if something's broken, it's my job to fix it. Or if we have a goal, it's my job to make sure it's happened. I'm the leader, that's my job, and that's what I'm paid to do. And so sometimes leaders, just say, hey, that's what I signed up for, that's my job. And so they can't see how that job of making something better or improving it or, getting help from employees to really manage and run day-to-day operations, they don't see that it's the work of employees. They see it's the job that they signed up for. And if they're not doing it themselves, then they're not doing their jobs. And I would say sometimes employees reinforce that in us as leaders when we might have tapped them on the shoulder in the past and asked them to help, or, maybe just, some sort of feedback we've gotten from employees where they remind us that it's our job, right? It is your job as the leader. It's not my job to fix this, it's yours. You know, if they come to a problem with you and you ask them for ideas and you ask them to be engaged to help, and they push it back on you and they put the monkey on you and they say, no, it's your job as a leader. So sometimes it's in our mind already, but then we're getting it reinforced that, you know, we can't ask our employees to contribute beyond their day-to-day job description or assigned job tasks to make something better or help manage operations, etc. The other trap sometimes we fall into is we already know that our staff are busy too. So we're busy as leaders and our staff are busy too. We think it's our job and it's in our job description and we're responsible and accountable for it. So now when we look around us, we see that our employees are also busy. We can't even fathom tapping them on the shoulder to do one more thing. So now we've got, you know, this even more solid perception that it's only our job as leaders to make the future better and to accomplish goals. And we can't tap our employees our already busy employees on the shoulder to do one more thing. The other thing is maybe as a leader, we don't know how to engage employees, either as individuals or collectively as a team or a set of teams. We don't even know how to go about that. Maybe we don't have a lot of experience with that. So even though we might feel it in our heart and we might recognize that there might be some potential or opportunity to do that, we just really don't know the way there, how to strategize around that, how to structure that, and how to plan or execute that. So that could be one reason that holds a leader back. And so then they're stuck in overwhelm. They're stuck in employees doing their job, leader doing their job, and there's no collaborative effort or contributions from employees. The other thing that holds leaders back is maybe they tried to do it in the past. They tried to, you know, empower or engage their employees to you know, contribute more to the department's success or to its goals or to its strategies. And, you know, it didn't work, right? It just didn't work. And so sometimes that failed attempt leaves leaders saying, oh, tried that once, it didn't work, I'm not going down that path again. So that can be something that holds us back. Also, we can have the belief that, you know, it's just quicker and easier if I do it myself, right? I can do it quicker or easier, or only I can do it right or the best. So that can hold us back too of engaging or empowering others. It's a similar thing to delegation is, you know, we don't even delegate if we do have an assistant or a secretary because, or executive assistant because, you know, we feel it's quicker, easier. It could be a control thing. It could be whatever, but we have this mindset of that. So, and that Rory Vaden work that I talked about earlier, one of the things that he mentioned is that what we're really looking for here is that sometimes it is quicker and easier, or it seems to be, for us to just do it ourselves. But if it's a whole bunch of things that falls into, and it happens often, now it's a huge chunk of time. So maybe it does take a little investment of time to, you know, elevate our employees to contribute at a higher level towards day-to-day operations being managed and even work towards making the future better, that it might take an investment of time, but that's an investment. There's a return on investment of time spent. So an example he uses that it might take you 2 hours to set up, you know, your home bills into an automated payment system, but that 2 hours of invested time saves you 30 minutes a month times 12 months. So in the course of the year, you've got a return on that investment of time invested. So the same can happen in our leadership. So I kind of want to throw out this idea of, you know, there's these barriers that might hold us back and we need to break through those barriers, and kind of the vision of where we're going with this, of how we can elevate our employees as leaders, of owners, as higher contributors beyond their day-to-day job descriptions and job tasks and their assigned shifts and assigned work, is that, you know, really what we want to do is elevate them to what we would call the line of leadership. Okay, and so if you want to think about this line, you could think about it on one end of this line is where maybe management tasks are in that realm on the line where, the day-to-day operations, maybe there's, staffing and scheduling and supplies and ordering and just the stuff that needs to be managed day to day to keep operations going. And so there's a line of leadership, there's activities of leadership that are necessary on that line of leadership to manage day-to-day operations. And then on this other end of the line of leadership is some of the things more related to the future. So this is the current state and managing the current state. And then this is about creating a better future and getting on that line of leadership where there's new goals, there's strategies to be executed on that make the future better. Maybe you're growing, maybe you're changing in some way in what you do or how you do it in some big strategic way. And that takes leadership too. And so if we think that leaders are the only one, and let's say you're a leader of one, there's one of you, and you have to cover this whole line of leadership where you're managing day to day, and also you're trying to carve out time to work on goals and things that are for the future and this better future. Well, we know that in that equation that managing day to day always wins. It's very loud, it's very busy, it's very time consuming. And so leaders spend often very little time. Our estimate is about 2 hours a week, maybe 100 hours a year working on this part of the line of leadership where they're moving the organization or the department forward. And so you can, imagine that doesn't leave a lot of time to make a big impact. So the reason that organizations or departments don't get better and better and better, and maybe they're not, responding to changes that are happening in their industry and the world, is there just isn't enough time spent here by anyone, including the leaders, to work on that, because managing day-to-day, just keeping day-to-day operations takes a lot of leadership. So the concept here is, what if we elevate our employees to be owners of the day-to-day, and we promote them to the line of leadership so that day-to-day they are the ones that are managing most of this. They're closest to it, they're most impacted by it. If it doesn't go well and it's not organized well, it's not responded to well, it affects them a lot, right? It affects them a lot. So can we elevate them to the line of leadership so they are really the owners and the managers of day-to-day operations? And then when that happens, then leaders can spend more time focused on that better future, making things better. And when that better future arises, it positively impacts day-to-day operations in a good way too. So I'll give some real examples because that might seem still very abstract to you. Is that, okay, so managing day-to-day, what can employees do to contribute more to that? What can they own there? So for example, when a complaint happens with a patient, who owns that? Right now, is it the leader? Oftentimes it is. So a frontline service recovery program where employees are empowered, equipped, trained, and they're closest to it. They can be more responsive. They're more knowledgeable. 90+%, maybe close to 100% of issues that rise day to day in dissatisfaction of customers, employees can, in the front line, solve problems at the lowest possible level with the least amount of bureaucracy and paperwork. It's my mantra. It's going to be on my tombstone. But right here, under service recovery, employees can own that. So they're better at it, they're closer to it, they're quicker, they can be more responsive, and certainly they can be empowered and trusted to do that. So that's one example. Maybe it's something like supplies and equipment. I mean, in some departments, that's a huge monster for a leader to try to manage, to make sure the right supplies and equipment, always in working order, in the right quantity, etc., are there every day to do the work. Well, employees can own that too. Like, that doesn't just have to be a leader's responsibility. It matters most to the employees because when that's not there in the moment, it impacts their day and frustrates them. So let them own that. Invest time in letting them be the ones that actually lead that for the department. And maybe it's an employer or two where they're just really good at that and they're passionate about it and they want to own it. So that's another example. It could be feedback regarding peers. So it could be a situation where you can train as a leader. One of our jobs is to give feedback to our peers or to our employees about, recognize them when it's going well, when they behave and perform at a high level, give them positive feedback, or if they're outside a standard, to give them feedback about that too and call them out on that. Well, that can also be delegated to the front line and employees. We're all adult professionals, right? So if employees day to day are equipped, trained, empowered to the line of leadership where they feel like they can have those conversations with their peers. They can give positive feedback to their peers. They can call their peers out when they're outside a standard, and that happens real time in the moment. Then it's more effective, right? And it's more real time, it's in the moment. And then that frees up the leader's time if there's chronic, persistent, really negatively impactive behavior, performance. That's their line of leadership, right? But employees day to day can handle that day-to-day operational feedback to each other. It could be things like other operational things in the department, like scheduling. Self-scheduling. Yes, it would take an investment of time to get that up. So again, return on time invested. So once that's in place, who does it matter to the most? Employees. Well, what if they owned that? What if they were on the line of leadership and made that happen? And then another real great example I had actually came from an inpatient unit where it grew really fast, and the census used to be like 8 to 12, and now it's 50 something on 2 different floors, and the census could go up and down all day long. Even within a shift it could go up and down. And so the manager was spending all of her time, it seemed, just monitoring census, volume, acuity, staffing, and adjusting every 2 to 4 hours. Well, guess what? Employees could do that. They could have a system where they could monitor and make those adjustments, because who did it matter to the most? It impacted and mattered the most to them that was right. Could they be trusted with helping to develop that and execute it? Absolutely. So if you can think about all of these kind of things where you could elevate your employees to leadership, that they can manage these day-to-day things, then you as the leader can move further down this line of leadership and work on creating this great future for the customers and the employees alike. But so we can elevate employees day to day to the line of leadership, but then we can also elevate employee teams. And those of you that know us well and are partners in our work, you know that we work a lot through employee-driven teams. So we do it with them, not to them. So maybe we're working on that self-scheduling process, and that investment of time to make that work day to day is actually done not just by the leader, but an employee-driven team. And then it's part of how we operate day to day once the system's been built. So employee-driven team, elevate them to the line of leadership. They can also be working on those goals. So if you have 2 or 3 goals in your department, maybe something related to improving your culture, your patient experience, safety, quality, finances, or whatever, put that in the hands of employee-driven team. Elevate them to the line of leadership. They're creative, they're amazing, and they'll just wow you with what they're able to contribute when you organize them, empower them in such a way, and trust them on the line of leadership. So you can imagine how much more an organization or a department can accomplish when it's just not leaders on the line of leadership. 30, 60, 100 leaders on the line of leadership in an organization of hundreds or thousands of people. It's not enough. Everybody needs to and can be elevated to the line of leadership. We just have to know how, and we have to make sure that we're not checking out and falling into those traps that say it's not possible, it can't be done, it won't work, etc. So my call to action here today is to really first evaluate your beliefs on this. And I'm actually going to post later today a poll in Fans of the Framework. And I want you to kind of give us some feedback, give us some ideas of maybe some of the things, that mindset or traps that might hold you back from empowering employees, allowing them to be owners, elevating them to leadership, some of those common traps. So help us out with that and let us know what you think about that. So you might want to evaluate your own beliefs about elevating employees as leaders, and then really kind of look at your methods. What are you actually doing? Do you have a strategy? Do you have a plan? Are you just trying to, you embody this idea, but you haven't really put a structure or a strategy behind it? So evaluate your beliefs, but also look, am I really organized, structured, and do I have a strategy about how to elevate individuals and also teams to the line of leadership in my department or my organization? So that would be our call to action, is to evaluate those two things in your leadership and in your department or organization. Then also give us that feedback on that poll about maybe some of the limiting beliefs that we might have, or the traps that we fall into us that hold us back from even engaging in, elevating contributions from our employees. So that's it for today. So just always as a reminder, as we close out, if you need to get in touch with us, maybe you want to talk about, help with either of these things in your own work, whether as a department leader, division leader, or, the head of an entire organization. Our website is capstoneleadership.net. net, capstoneleadership.net. There's a place on there, there's resources on there, there's information about what services we offer, but most importantly, there's a place where you can book a call with us if you want to talk about this more. We love those calls and taking the time with leaders. So I'm signing off for now, because actually coming up at the top of the hour, I have one of those calls that I'm actually going to have with a leader in North Dakota. So I will, as I mentioned, jump on Fans of the Framework in the group later and post a poll, and I'd love your feedback. Thanks so much.